What's up, Bulldogs? All right, this is going to be one of those kind of philosophical, raw type of videos, I would say. You know, it's not really based off of any kind of really large idea that I had that pertains to being a more masculine alpha male. But it is something that I think we all deal with. What we're going to talk about today is what I call levels of love. And this is sort of a new concept. It's something that I've been toying with and thinking about as I have noticed this in my own relationships, and then just dealing with not just coaching men, but coaching a fair amount of women more recently in finding, you know, it's kind of interesting. I think getting the perspective, because I've been talking to more women about certain issues and seeing things from a different perspective, right? Because some of the advice that I give for being a man is not quite as good for being a woman, right? So you could think of it maybe, you know, going back to our philosophical roots here, Plato's concept of forms. You know, what is the form of a man? What is the form of a woman? They're different. They're different things, right? You could say that, you know, there's the bigger type of form of a human being, but what makes a man more of a man? What makes a woman more of a woman? Or you could define this in the masculine or feminine if you want to as well, but I'll just use man and woman to simplify things. So yeah, so some things are going to be different. And it's kind of been interesting, especially when it comes into concepts like attachment versus non-attachment. You know, I think there's some differences there. We're not going to get into that in this video, but I'm going to go ahead and read you the question. And then, you know, like I said, this is kind of more of a stream of consciousness video, just talking about this topic. It's not like my usual videos, I would say. Okay, so she says basically this. Hi, John. Thank you for your thoughts here on Bulldog. It's been great for me. I know this guy in, I won't say where, that has been writing me for 5 years. We met on a blank, and I do love him. He has very strong personality. He said he loves me, but will not commit to making plans for our future. Should I be worried? Thank you. So there's a few things that I said here that sort of I thought about in terms of this that I had already been pondering a little bit, and the advice I gave her, which was that she has basically two options here, right? And she can exercise both of these options at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. So the first one is that she can accept that level of love that she's experiencing with this man and leave it at that level. Now, what do I mean by that level? Well, if you have some experience in this realm, what you'll find is that there are different levels of what I would call merging with another human being, right? That's typically when we think of love. I think of love in terms of merging, right? Becoming more of a single consciousness, right? Because when you think about it, okay, the desire of love, even of a sexual nature, is to merge, right? When you look at the biblical terms of it, it's the merging of to become one flesh, as the Bible says, okay? Not talking about this from a moralistic or religious viewpoint, but I'm just saying that this concept is not a unique, I'm not making something up that hasn't been thought of before, right? Maybe some of the other things I'm going to say, perhaps, but the idea of merging and love being the same thing is not novel. So if you think about this, right, there's different degrees of it, and maybe you've experienced this yourself, right? So you can be in love with a person at a very physical level, right? You can want to merge with them at a physical level, but not really have a mental connection. Sometimes that physical level connection, it is a strong connection. Sometimes it's just purely what you could say a lustful or sexually based connection. But sometimes it is more than that. It is a physical connection that is more of an unspoken connection, right? I guess you could say in that case, it'd be somewhat of a spiritual connection, right? You can have a mental sort of merging, a mental connection where you connect someone at such a mental level that there's this merging that feels incredible in the sense that you're in love with their mind. Okay. You can have both of these things happening. You can have various levels of it where it's some aspect, something that happens. You can have a person that you fall in love with where you don't have a lot to say, but you have this deep connection in the sense that you care for each other, that you're merging in that sense of what I would say spirit, right? So there's various levels of all these things. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the level that she's in love with this guy at, if it's a non-physical, they've been writing for 5 years, it's not a non-existent thing. It's just at that level. Okay. And so one option for her is to keep things at that level. It's just to say, okay, and the reason why I'm saying this is because no merger is complete, right? No matter how close you get to someone, no matter how deep inside them that you get, it's never going to be a complete merger. You're never going to completely be unified with a person, right? We're seeking in love usually to try and come as close to that as possible, right? Just the act of sex is a physical manifestation of that, as close as you can to actually be inside. But you still cannot be fully inside, right? You cannot fully merge. And so the reason why I'm saying that is because there's various levels, right? In the sense that being pen pals and having a love that is over the miles is a love of the person, of their mind, of not even such a degree that you can speak with them on a regular basis, but just writing, that's a level, right? And that's a love that you could hold on to and keep. It's not necessarily fulfilling to a degree, but no love is completely fulfilling. And that's why you can't base your life on this. That's why, guys, when I tell you guys to not make a woman the center of your life, and you have to have a mission and purpose in life other than that, that's part of the reason why, is because no matter how deep the connection is, no matter on what levels that you connect, it still will not be enough. You will never experience enough of that. So the second thing I told her, which is that she should potentially move on with her life. Now, like I said, the two aren't mutually exclusive. I'll come back to that in a second. But she should perhaps go forward and open herself up to potentially another relationship at a more physical level, if that's what she wants. So the whole idea behind that is well, it's really two things. It's one, that she goes after what she wants in life, which we should all be doing, not accepting what we don't want. And two, it will force him to a decision. Now, when I say force him to a decision, what I mean is not for her to make an ultimatum, right? And this is something that a lot of people mess up, right? So I know this video is addressed to both men and women. But you guys that I talk to, a lot of times you try and do this. You try to put a girl to an ultimatum. She has to choose. And you're pushing, right? You want something from another person. That's the wrong approach. Instead, the approach is to say, this is what I'm going to do, right? In fact, this is just a better way to live your life, right? You should never try and force someone to do what you want. You can just state what you're going to do. And I've talked about this in terms of frame control a lot, but really this is just a general principle, right? In general, in life, you should not try to put an expectation on people. You should not try and guilt people or try to get them to do what you want them to do. Instead, you should be okay if they do whatever they want to do, but you say, well, this is what I'm going to do. And then they can go along or not, or they can negotiate with that, right? So for example, if this lady says, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to see some other people. I'm interested in a more physical or committed relationship and building a life. So that's what I'm going to do. That's all she has to say. She doesn't have to say, you need to decide what you're going to do. You need to decide if you're going to commit to me or not, because she's just stating her intention, what she's going to do. Then he can simply reply back and decide that he doesn't want her to do that, in which case he may say, I don't want you to do that. I would like to be the only guy in your life. In which case, then she can say the conditions in which that needs to be in order for that to be the case, right? That's a lot different than giving an ultimatum. That's a lot different than trying to force someone to love you or to reach the level of love that you want them to be at. Instead, you're just stating what your intention is, what you're going to do. So I said to her that she could do both of these things, right? They're not mutually exclusive in the sense that she can keep the level of love that she has, this relationship that she has with this man that she loves, overriding, and she can still go out and continue and start to see other people and see what develops from there. And there may be a point where that level of love that she has with this other guy gets downgraded to the point of just existing in memory, where it's no longer in writing even. And that's still a level. That's still a level, right? So anyway, I don't know. I was just kind of in a very philosophical mood, and I was thinking about these things because I've definitely experienced these different levels of my life, and I was wondering, I was like, that's so interesting with some of the relationships that you have, where some of them you are merging on this just on the physical level. Some of them there's like this mental component to it, which seems to be even deeper. And some of them, it's all of it. It's all of it. And those are the most powerful type of relationships. But they're not exclusive in the sense that, some are more desirable than others, and you may choose exclusivity, but you may have at any time multiple sort of love relationships with different people that are at different levels. And maybe even from a monogamous standpoint, the monogamy may exist at both the physical level and to some degree the mental level in terms of communication, but there may be still loves at another level, right? That's still out there, even relegated to memory, that still exist, that are still on, or maybe like that one song, what's that song? You're Beautiful, right? The James Blunt song where he sees a stranger, on the subway and they connect eyes, right? And that's a level. So I don't know. This is kind of a weird video, but